on the computer, like this visual to do like a Facebook Live from like webinar is now streaming live on YouTube. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Make More Marbles. Welcome to sunny San Diego, California. Not so sunny today. Let me get this recording. There it goes. It's I gotta kill it over here because it's gonna go crazy. All right. Brandon, James Duncan, the rarest of breeds, the rarest of lives. My friend, welcome to the Make More Marbles podcast. We were super excited to have you. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything is working on your end.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Okay, let's jump right into it. So, Brandon, what has brought you to this moment today in your life? And what is the mission that you have for the world? What are you trying to share or give or contribute to the world right now?
Man, starting off deep. I love it.
Yes, sir. Go right in.
Love it. So, wow. I was just having this conversation with someone else actually a couple of days ago because I was in a group, and just to kind of illustrate that answer here, I'll give an example of something recent. I was in a group with four total people that all met online virtually through Facebook, right? And so we're in this like real life moment connecting for the first time, and we're having that conversation of how did we get here to this moment, to this actual moment in time, this present moment where we're engaging in this experience. And so to answer your question, it's just that. It's engaging and connecting through social media, putting myself out there about 4.5 years ago, and going through some different experiences that I was seeking, right? Like to essentially find answers to experience things that I was looking to experience for certain outcomes in my life. It put me in this powerful spot where I started sharing stuff on social media about 4 to 4.5 years ago. And that started this journey of connecting with other people through sharing, through being open, through being vulnerable, which brought me to where you and I are sitting here right now having this experience, right? Through us connecting digitally through social media and then cultivating that relationship into something more meaningful and investing into that relationship. And really that's the ethos that kind of drives my life, from both the personal things that I do, whether it's being a father, whether it's being an athlete, whether it's just being an adventurer out there in the world, and the professional things that I do, working with clients, trying to make a positive impact. It all comes back to the driving force being connecting with others so that I can impart and impact some type of positive change, positive imprint, positive expression into the world.
I love it, man. And you said a lot of great stuff here. So let's just start with the beginning. So I'm glad that you said you met those guys on Facebook and not Grindr. That's my first joke that I wanted to add to the podcast. Anyway, I just invited some wonderful people from Facebook too. So we'll see who shows up. This could be really cool. By the way, guys, we're doing this new on Zoom with a live broadcast element, and like people can jump in and be attendees. It's pretty cool. So I'm super excited. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I wish this was exactly the last 3 years, because I can bring wonderful people to you live from the world into Facebook land, into YouTube land immediately with no censors, no filters. We get to get questions from the audience. It's going to be a brilliant experience. So I'm super excited about that.
Love it.
I have a question to kind of frame my next question. What was the exact moment when you felt compelled to start sharing your story? And you're a father and you're a leader and you've done Kokoro and you've worked with Mark Divine, a lot of really heavy hitting people. Like, what was that first moment where it was like, all right, I'm going to take this, because I know what it is for me and I can share my experience too. But like, what was that first moment where there was such a fire in your belly? Like, I got to start sharing with the world. And can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, for sure. That moment that you just described was absolutely, it was in April of 2014. And so it was after I'd already started sharing a little bit, which the original sharing came simply just because I felt I had some things I needed to say. Right. So but that wasn't really the big catalyst. The big catalyst came in April of 2014 when I went through Wake Up Warrior, and I went through my first Warrior Week with Garrett J. Wyatt and all the guys in that amazing, amazing brotherhood that I got to be a part of. It was coming out of that 4-day experience, getting my ass kicked, getting all of my lies and all of the facade that I'd created over the years, right? Like all these inner stories, getting all that shit just completely like wiped out because I had this experience where I had to be vulnerable. I had to be honest because I couldn't hide. You can't hide in that space. You can't hide behind the stories and the facades that I had created throughout a lot of my life. And so it was coming out of that experience that I realized, like, I have to share this. Like, there are men in the world that are doing the same things that I have been doing that need permission. They need permission to share their truth, right? Like, really what's going on for them, the pain, the challenge, the adversity, whatever it may be. They have to like have an example. They have to have someone else like open that space. And so it was coming out of Wake Up Warrior that I felt this driving force behind me of, I have to do this. I have to share the stories, the experiences I've been through, because there's other people out there in the world that are in a place of pain and suffering. And if I can share what I've been through and what I've experienced, and it can give them some strength, courage, permission, whatever they may need to step into their path of pursuing a healthier, stronger, better version of themselves, then I have to do that. And so immediately coming out of that, it was just writing, with my thumbs, this kind of writing, but nonstop. It was just flowing out of me, flowing through me. And it was a beautiful experience.
That you're the fountain and not the flow. That moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Like, the flow is coming through me. It's like I'm a vessel. And I always say that. It was actually something that I was instructed to do, just to give it a try, just like from Thomas Blackwell. He's my speaking coach. Great guy. He sells millions of dollars of Infusionsoft all over the world. And he's just the best storyteller that I've ever met. And I could tell stories about him all the time. But one of the things he says is, like, Brad, when you get up on stage, we actually came up with an acronym about this, VASES. You have to give acknowledgement to both the crowd, but to also the fact that you're a vessel, right? At the end of the day, it's not your message. It's not your intelligence. It's not your creation. It's a co-creation with the divine, right? It's like, it's coming through you and serving the people you want to serve. So his incantation is, I hope that you get what you need to get from this time together right now. And that's my prayer, right? Is that I can be a vessel for you to get what you need to get, the permission, the inspiration, the motivation, the overcoming of whatever it is that is holding you back from being that big, bright, shining lighthouse that you need to be in order to lead the world towards a better place.
I love that.
And so many guys I've met, and especially in this community, right? We're down in San Diego, and there's some really wonderful switched on people here. But like Peter Scott went through Wake Up Warrior, and he's, been mentored by Garrett as well. And I saw Garrett speak at Funnel Hacking Live, for example, down here. I'm just trying to think of some of the others that have done it, but all of these wonderful people, it's like we're the Avengers, right? Like Peter's fighting around here, you're fighting, 100%. What would you say that your big cause is? Like,
for me, it's pain to power, and pain can be anything. It could be some form of physical pain. It could be emotional pain. It could be spiritual pain. It could be anything, adversity, challenge, a hardship you're trying to conquer in life, but you're having challenges around that. And so you carry this pain, and it's instead, let's transform that pain, because I believe that in all pain exists a gift. There's a gift. There's a lesson. There's a beautiful opportunity deep within that pain. And sometimes it's really hard to find. But when we tap into that and we learn how to process it, how to work with it, how to take that to the next level, it actually turns into power. And so for me, it's that journey. It's that journey of pain to power. I
like it. And there was a great quote that I would just want to add to that, is that if you can be grateful for your pain, what the heck in life can stop you? Right. 100%. If you can be grateful for that experience of going through that pain, because it's literally turning you into the person you need to be so that you can have the things you want to have and do the things you want to do. And it's not about having things, right? But it's like this interesting kind of vibe. Mike Sherbikoff is another man who I consistently talk about, because he's the kind of guy, he's a veteran. Thank you for your service, Mike. And he's just a guy who lives and walks his talk. Sure. He makes me want to be a better man. He makes me want to live at the utmost levels of integrity, to be an example. And one of the things that he talks about all the time, he has a lot of great sayings. But I think the one that stands out most to me is that, you can't play small in life, right? You gotta go for greatness, right? If you're not here doing the things that you need to be doing, you're robbing the world of your gifts. And if you're not being that person you're not doing those things, you're not giving what you can give, how can you ever expect to have anything? And so we kind of have a similar philosophy of this. People say, oh, be, do, have. It's really be, do, give. And then the have is like, it's a no-brainer. You have everything you could ever want. But if it's not coming from a place of contribution, it's not sustainable, really. Right.
Absolutely agree with that. And I just want to add, when you talk about like the quotes, and I mean, we could throw quotes in here for days, weeks, months, right? But there's some very powerful guiding light within a lot of these phrases, that we toss around and these things that we say. And one for me that I just want to echo what you said with is, if I never went there, I'd never be here.
Mm-hmm.
So often people get trapped and think that, gosh, I wish I never went through that. Like, gosh, that sucked, or that was really fucking tough, or whatever it was. They frame it in this way where they're not grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we actually take a step away from the emotional attachment to it around the story that we created, right, that has this negative effect, and we look at the blessing that if we didn't go through that, we wouldn't be in this present moment. Like, everything you've been through in your life, however you want to label it or story tell it, is what brought you to this moment. And for that, we have to be grateful, because without it, we wouldn't be here. And so for me, like, that's a big one. It's a really big one that I like to focus on and I like to use.
Yeah. So if we're the Avengers, right, and I'm fighting scarcity and Peter's fighting fear, rational fear, perception of scarcity, rational fear, the pain story being a disempowering story versus an empowering story. Mike is playing small. We got to figure this out. There's like definitely a cool metaphor here for all these wonderful messengers.
I don't know, man.
I just want to be Nick Fury and like facilitate the old thing. I'm just going to be the
pilot. Yeah, I love it. That's actually a good one to be.
And Captain America. Mike's definitely Captain America.
Yeah. If I had to choose one, like, Tony Stark would be pretty cool.
That would be rad.
That'd be pretty cool. Like, I think any guy on the planet would choose Tony Stark.
Well, it's a race. Like, you got to be the first cool billionaire, right?
Yeah, right.
I think Kyle might be, or not Kyle. I'm sorry, Kurt rather. Kurt Walker, a little bit ahead of you on that one, but
just slightly.
But yeah, so that's rad. And honestly, like, and that comes back to kind of my mission is like, the best relationships I've ever had, and I'm a relationship guy, right? I'm a supporter and wealth dynamics. Like, my whole credo should be, I don't need to know everything if I know everybody. If I could give one thing to the world, is to understand that relationships, when they're generative, really all that means is like, you're okay by yourself, I'm okay by myself. We have everything we need, but we come together, we're greater than the sum of our parts. That's the basis of any fruitful, generative relationship. And we will all be fine doing our thing, helping the people we help and our niche and everything like that. Yeah. But what I really think would be cool as a value add for this community and for this community of influencers that I've cultivated around the world, and all these relationships that I really haven't tapped into the full potential of, is like, how can we all collaborate together in order to share our messages? So we all have our sovereign brands. You got Rare Life, I got Make More Marbles, Mike's got the Greatness Foundation, yada, yada, yada. Peter's got the Fearless Life Experience. And I urge you, like, whatever niche you're trying to conquer or go down, or whatever road you're traveling right now, check all those out. They're incredible resources. But what if we could all come together as well and create like a mutual, collaborative type of thing, where it's not like, this and that, the other thing. It doesn't get bogged down, in all of this he said, she said, deal making crap, where it just never goes anywhere. Like, how can we come to this with the same level of clarity, like the conversation around sexual consent in North County right now? They're having these wonderful, conversations around boundaries and about, yes, saying, yes meaning yes and no meaning no, and there's no maybes, and thank you for taking care of yourself and all these wonderful things. I'm like, why are we having these same conversations in the business world where people get screwed over, lie, cheat, ends up in lawsuits in court all the time? It's like, that doesn't need to happen, guys. The competition is not helping anybody. If we cooperate, we can create more for everybody. And that's the whole Make More Marbles philosophy. So like, for me, I want to be having those conversations with heavy hitters like you. And I know I've been talking a while, so I'm going to let you jump in here and just kind of share your thoughts on that whole chunk of brain download that we just went over.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love listening to you talk. So you've got some good shit to say. So you
My
can
pleasure.
continue.
I appreciate
it. Yeah. It's powerful stuff.
Brandon Duncan today. So let's get him.
I want to, because I very much like you, I really value people and I value relationships, and my journey over the last 3 to 4 years of being in this world that we're all in has been based around the relationships. And so I want to bring one of my very valued relationships into this conversation because it's very relevant. And that's Wesley Chapman from Human Project, Human Gathering.
Right on.
And Wesley, he had an event a while back that I got fortunate to be at, where the whole premise of it was have conversations that matter. And he brought into that room, I mean, some of the world's heaviest hitters, Peter Diamandis, among Dr. Drew, Cash Warren, Jamie Will, Tom Bilyeu, like all these massive, influencers and entrepreneurs and movers and shakers, right? Making huge waves in the world. And the conversations that were being stimulated in that environment were based around education, based around the youth was like the main commonality across the board. And so what I've started to discover, like if you want to bring together a community of powerful people and you want to have conversations that matter, what I've noticed is that typically when that happens, the focus gets to be around the youth, right? Because that's where we can really start to impact some change. But as you just said, there's challenges that we all have at different levels of our life and in different buckets of those areas of life too. So my thought is collectively, through community and through collective kind of consciousness of relationships, we identify areas of life that are, no matter where you are on your journey, no matter what age, these are of prime importance and of value to invest in. Education, whether you're 60 or 6, is going to be important because at 60, the education may be more around retirement, maybe more around financial planning for that next stage, right? But at 6, education still exists and it's something completely different. Same thing with health, with mental health, right? And I don't mean in a sense, I mean just like neurological health, right? Thinking healthy thoughts, mindset, things like that. Relationship health. We identify these buckets of life that you and I tend to focus on every day in our daily life, but a lot of people get caught up in the grind, if you will, of work, of life, of marriage, of all the different things they're tussling with, and tend to forget to invest and learn and grow in these areas. And so that's for me, like what I've found and what I'm really passionate about when it comes to these relationships is bringing together people, creating a collective community where instead of like having this like, well, let's choose a topic that we can, focus our energy on here. Like, let's choose the 4, 5, 6 really big buckets of life that everybody has, no matter what age you're at. And then from that, like, let's pour into those buckets, the things that are specific to us. Like you have areas, your zone of genius that you're really good at. And so perhaps you pour that into those buckets, right? I have my areas that I practice and that I focus things on. So I pour my experience, my knowledge into those buckets, and collectively we're all filling the buckets up at a collective level, yet we're still able to tap into our background, our experience, our passions, and not have to make these compromising kind of agreements that may limit our gift, right? And instead we're able to really exercise the gift and there takes some management, some different things around that, and make an impact from 6 to 60, right? It doesn't have to be like this one area. And that's for me, like something I've actually considered creating. It's challenging. It's tough. There's a lot of things, moving parts, as you know, but that would be something that would be very powerful, I believe, with the right people. And I don't know what the bigger outcome of that would have to be, but I agree, man. It's, bringing together people of influence and people that have that opportunity in that platform. It's what we all need. It's what will really serve at a high level. So separate conversation when it's time to have it, let's create it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always like thinking of new ideas, and it really just comes down to bandwidth, right? We always talk about making
capacity.
Our team resources, right? Who's your team playing for? Is your team growing and contributing, or is it just, selfishly being squandered? And your team is really simple. It's your time, your energy, your attention, and your money, right? And the value you confer on it really becomes the impact that you can have. So we always talk about the entrepreneurial life cycle, right? It's like, what do entrepreneurs really do? Well, they take resources and we just talked about resources, not just money. There's tons of resources and currencies in the world. They take them from areas of low yield to areas of high yield. Investors take resources from areas of high risk to areas of low risk. And balance of diversification of income and investments can create sustainable zebras, which, you know, if you're in Africa, you go out into the Serengeti and you see one zebra and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I've never seen a zebra before. And then you see 5,000 freaking zebras for like the next 10 minutes. You're like, all right, forget zebras. There's too many of them. But guess what? Zebras have something that unicorns don't. Well, first, they're real and they're plentiful, but they have a herd mentality. They, you know, if one goes down, there's plenty more to take its place. They have adaptability, right? Their stripes are made so they can't be seen by lions. They're sustainable, right? We can make more zebras. I still have yet to find a unicorn. I've been looking. So, you know, this is kind of a conversation that's happening around Silicon Valley right now. It's like the zebra versus the unicorn. I think it's a really interesting conversation to have, is how can we build more zebras? And I think one of the ways is that we can share the risk, right? It's risky to build a platform. It's risky to spend money on ads with no good game plan, or if you're missing pieces of the puzzle and you don't know what you don't know. And Brandon, as you know, and most people on this podcast may know already, is that what you don't know that you don't know can fill the universe. And in fact, it does.
It absolutely does.
How can we all kind of start playing and contributing our own little thing into your bucket or our bucket or the collective community bucket, or however we want to do it? Maybe it's a trust or a 501(c)(3) or whatever it is, you know, where we can all bring, you know, like I love David Steele. He's one of my favorite guys here in the in North County. And he has a beautiful home near the ocean. And sometimes we go over his house for dinner, and we all bring a dish or some contribution. And thankfully they tell us what it is. I don't have to think about it. I just I get 20 limes or bring a dish or whatever it's going to be. And I sort it out. But everybody, as a result of coming, we have, you know, 25, 30 people sometimes, has a full meal.
Yeah.
And nobody had to take the risk of setting all of it up, of maybe nobody shows up, of, you know, I spent all this money and now I have all this food and it's too much to eat. Nobody takes any risk, but everybody gets a bigger reward. So how can we make the potluck, so to speak, of influence, positive influence that really shapes the world and helps people, not just any Yahoo? Like there'd have to be some sort of criteria or system. But really, I think it comes down to the relationships. Who are the people being?
100%. You said two things as part of ending that I want to touch on, and that's criteria, right? And the system of it that you have. Like, what happened that made that dinner at David Steele's successful? You had clarity. You knew, like, hey, this is what Brad brings, right? You may not have even known what everyone else brought, but there's criteria. David had a system of accomplishing this. There were the relationships. You said the word relationship, right? Like there's very specific things necessary. And I like to look at these as like the key. These are the keys necessary to accomplish the task at hand. But if you don't know what that task is, if you don't know what that outcome is, right? Like what you're actually trying to accomplish, that's the clarity piece that I think is so important in anything, any conversation that we have in life has to involve clarity. And I believe that if we have clarity of purpose, meaning in that moment or in that group setting, whatever it may be, if we have clarity of what we're trying to achieve, like what do we want to accomplish? Okay. And if it's this collective community making a big contribution to the world, well, there needs to be clarity. What do we want that accomplishment or that impact to be? Obviously, it may be a lot of different things.
Yeah. What does it look like when we see it? Like, how do we know?
Like how do
it's a zebra. Oh, okay.
We somewhat measurable. Yeah. Like there's a unicorn, you know, like, cause I still believe in unicorns, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I actually have a picture of a unicorn somewhere.
If you could take a selfie with a unicorn, I'd really love to see it. You mentioned a lot of things.
Accomplishment.
I think the Kokoro coin is more impressive based on the work.
It's right here.
Yeah, show it to the audience, man. Get it up.
Let me grab it.
So, if you guys aren't familiar with Kokoro, real quick while I grab it, Kokoro is basically a miniature civilian version of Hell Week that Mark Divine runs, and it's really fascinating. I'm working up to it. Kokoro is just an incredible experience. It's 50 hours nonstop of just beating the crap out of yourself by Navy SEALs, because you know crazy people like us want stuff to do that is challenging and fun. Yeah,
we could dive into that's a whole other conversation
maybe we'll pin that for podcast. We're gonna have you back on the show, by the way.
But I want to go back actually, because I think it's very important for the listeners and the people that are, you know, looking at this. And here's two parts. One is, if you're looking at this or listening to this conversation, this podcast now or later, as inspiration, consider that for a moment. I invite you to consider that when you feel inspired, what's really happening, and this goes back to something flowing through us, right? The vessel, you're in spirit, right? Like inspired, you're in spirit. And so, whatever that means to you, just consider for a moment that you can take that energy, you can take that flow, you can take that momentum and build upon it. And that's why I believe, like in the personal development world, inspiration and motivation is cool. It's cool, but that's just the surface of what's available to us. Because when we actually tap in a little bit deeper and we get in spirit, in the zone of motivation, inspiration, right? And we actually take that energy and inject it into the things we're doing, that's when we actually have tangible results as a reflection of being inspired or being motivated by a conversation, by a experience, whatever it may be. Back to David Steele's thing, the criteria piece I think is really important. And if collectively a group of people want to make some type of impact in the world for the better, there has to be clarity of, what, how, why, that sort of stuff. And then criteria around that. And then just common values. But in the common values may be like in the clarity piece, right? Like, I think just to make it super simple, because simple is easy, clarity, criteria, and then system to execute, right? Like, I believe the easier that, and easy doesn't mean that there's not going to be hard work, right? Like, let's make sure that we acknowledge this for a minute. Easy can be very easy, but there's still work that has to be done. There's still activities that have to be executed. I think a lot of people get confused on that, because I talk a lot about on my social media, like, it's really easy to achieve what you want to achieve in life. The hard part is executing. Right? But when we take a step back, we know there's no like secret pill. We know the exact steps an individual has to take in any area of their life to be successful. You want to be successful in your body and in your health? Awesome. Here's the exact steps. There's no excuse. Like, here it is. The only excuse is either execute or not execute. Same thing in business. There's no secret pill. Like, there's enough data like that we can go, and a person, if they had the resources, which most people, if they look hard enough, they do, to start any business. And unless it's a completely brand new industry, product, service that's never, ever been done, which does happen sometimes, like the Elon Musks of the world, and those guys are doing some pretty innovative things, obviously. But for the most part, you can do anything. The information's there. The knowledge, the tools, the resources are all available. It's the execution part that tends to separate those from succeeding and not succeeding.
And you said a couple of really great things there, and I want to pick them apart because they're really, I think, valuable for the audience. Is like, people misunderestimate. That's a word I just made up.
I love
it. People misunderestimate the. We'll go back and edit that out. The value of just 1% better, just every day 1% better.
Yeah,
they're at where they're at. Don't wish life was easier, right? When you argue with reality, well, you're going to be wrong 100% of the time. So don't wish life was easier. Just get comfortable with how it is. Wish you were better. And the way to get better is 1% better every day.
Yeah.
And 1% may not seem like a lot, but let's look how it compounds over a year. So it's not 365% after a year. It's 3,778% better. So any amount of effort, 1% better every single day, compounded over a year, is 3,778% return. If you got that kind of return in anything, like what Ether's doing right now, by the way, I think I'm 18%.
Can you say that one more time? Because in like, I want people that are really get. Yeah, like, grab your pen, grab your paper.
Yeah, this is the big takeaway, guys.
Yeah, if there was a secret pill, like, this is it. So write this down.
So just focus on whatever you're doing. Not wishing you were better, not wishing that it was easier, wish you were better, right? You can't argue with reality. Reality is what it is. It's our perception of reality, which causes pain or pleasure, right? So my strategy for getting better at something is just focus on the 1% gain every single day. If you can get 1% better at something every single day, it doesn't become 365% after a year. It becomes 3,778%. My math wizards out there can double check my math. I did 1.01 to the power of 365. So if that was correct, please verify. If not, then we can have another conversation about math. But I think I'm on with that. So
Powerful, man.
Yeah, I just think that one key idea, like people think they have to get 100% better or 500% better, like overnight, like that's possible. No, man, like you start by running up the block. How do you run a marathon, right? There's one step, start running.
Yeah.
There's no step two, right? But if you start by running the end of the block, next time you start, you run 2 blocks. The next time you run 3 blocks, pretty soon you're running a mile. Pretty soon you're running 2 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles, 10 miles. It doesn't take, everything you have. Like, especially around the physical stuff, because we could talk about this all day, guys. Sure. Like you got to understand, if you put a 5 horsepower load on a 3 horsepower engine, a 3 horsepower engine will burn out, but your body is not an engine. If you put a 5 horsepower load on a 3 horsepower body consistently, it will eventually grow to be a 5 horsepower engine. And then you can up it to 7 and 10 and all that, but don't go for, the crazy goal to start. I'm not doing Kokoro day 1. I'm working up to it. Right. I didn't do my marathon on the first run. That would have nearly killed me. And it still nearly killed me. I trained for 8 months, right? Maybe I'm just not meant for running, but I love it. And if I do it in moderation and I continually just try to get 1% better every day, pretty soon I'm doing things that, I would have never even intended or imagined. So consistency wins the day every single time, guys. I was a skinny kid with glasses when I was 12 years old. I'm not the big buff cheerleader, high school footballer guy. I just wasn't that guy. I got beat up a lot when I was a kid, and I'm in pretty good shape now, but it's a function of consistency over a lot of time. So don't give up hope.
That's a powerful word that you just said, function. And it's a word that I really, really use a lot in my life in the different areas. We are designed in a very beautiful way to function, right? In areas of life at these really, really high levels. Yet very few of us actually learn how to tap into, how to access those levels of functionality because of what you just said. A lot of people avoid, and we'll bring some other mutual friends into the conversation. Jesse Itzler, right? Do something hard every day. Do the hard thing, the hard stuff.
We do hard stuff. Check out Jesse's.
Amazing group.
So inspired.
Yeah. 2017 of everything turned into, we do hard stuff. Yeah. But great ethos and guiding principles there. Like do something hard every day, right? We do hard stuff, grow 1%, consistency, because what happens is your functionality, whether that's your mindset, whether that's cardiovascularly, whether that's your performance in a relationship, whatever that may be, the function is a direct result of the activity, right? Like performance, right, creates this energy, this momentum, and you're going to start functioning at higher levels the more that you practice these activities, the more that you invest time and energy into these things, the more you're going to increase the function of those things. And fitness is an easy one for us to talk about and look like. Everyone can relate to this.
Fitness is a metaphor for life, really. Anything.
It's everything.
Look at it. It's just that consistency over time, right? If you want the results, you got to put in the effort. That's
you
it.
Put it in,
and it gets easier when you form the habit. So people misunderstand these things all the time. They think like, I don't have the X, Y, or Z, right? Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. People make up excuses before they really understand what they actually have and the resources that they have.
Well, and I think people get discouraged sometimes. And Gary Keller talks about in The One Thing, and illustrates it in a great, simple to understand diagram of, in the beginning, yes, the discipline required to create a new activity into a habit is very, very high, right? Like discipline and time are kind of up at the same one, but as time continues, the discipline actually goes down.
Yes.
Right. The discipline required decreases the longer you consistently practice this new activity or whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then eventually what happens is the discipline is almost not even there for a lot of things. There's some that may still require a certain level, right? But for like a lot of your basic stuff, you're trying to just change an activity, it then becomes habitual. And once it becomes habitual, and they say, some people say 21 days to 66 days is kind of like the range that I've heard, that a new habit can be formed. Either one of those ends of the spectrum, I don't care which one you subscribe to, it's still a short period of time.
Yeah.
And in the big scheme of life, 2 to 3 months is a short period of time, or 3 weeks to 2.5 months. But
habit you can have for the rest of your life that produces more compounding results over time. If your habit was just to save $1 a day and have it compound at some % interest rate for the rest of your life, you'd be wealthy by the end of your life.
This is why the conversation of daily habits is one that I tend to start. Like, that's one of my favorite conversations is daily habits. Daily habits really determine your life, like your entire life experience are going to be based upon the daily habits you have. Now, those habits may change, right? And the daily habits are going to be based around the beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. And so, like, if someone wants to truly impact like some type of change in their life, you got to look at those two areas. Look at the beliefs, thoughts, and feelings that have been driving your actions or habits up to this point, and then look at what are the new habits you want to create, right? The clarity piece, same thing as the David Steele conversation of dinner, and the criteria, the system, and then look at the beliefs, thoughts, and feelings that support that. Connect those things, have a plan of action to execute. And before you know it, just by like turning the knobs a little bit on your daily habits, just making these small adjustments, that 1% in this area and that area, you can change anything in your life. Anything. And I know that's like the big cliche, like, oh yeah, but it's kind of true.
and there's, some really great people, and they'll always talk about like, I made who I am today. Like, I consciously put effort into it over a period of time. It's like carving the Grand Canyon. Took thousands of years. Like, eventually the water will carve a canyon. It takes time, and you guys got to be committed to forming those habits. And the willpower piece, like you said, the willpower drops off after time. It's only really intense for the first couple of weeks, and then it gets less and less so over time, and pretty soon it's effortless. And I mean, you'll fall off the wagon and stuff. You got to be able to forgive yourself, and moderation in all things is important. But I really feel like if you're just committing to something as a result or an outcome and you have clarity, I mean, that's the first step, right? The what and the why. If you have a result in mind and the purpose is clear and those two things are solid, that's 80% of the way there. The how begins to show up easily.
Yeah.
Right? People are always so concerned about strategy. I see that's one of the biggest things that people get caught up on today. And the world's moving too fast for you to not, to worry about the strategy. The strategy will show up if you're clear on the what and the why. But if you don't have the right mindset, I can give you the best strategy in the world. You want to execute.
Right.
And that's it.
Well, what's the saying, that the fear of change, or the what's the saying? I always murder this one. The fear of change has to outweigh the fear of staying the same, or what is it?
Yeah. So the pain and the pleasure, right?
Yeah,
Those are the two opposite dipole forces. Like, if you're not in enough pain, or you don't associate enough pleasure with making a change, if those two things are in place, your brain is wired to make that change right now.
Yeah.
It's, if it's painful to stay where you're at and it's pleasurable to go over here, you're going to go over there. It's just what's going to happen. Right? It's like put your hand on the stove.
Yeah.
Get it off the stove and get it under the cold water. That's going to happen automatically. You won't have to think about it at all. There's no habit needed there. But, we can use that same principle in our own life, right? But you have to create enough pain. This is one of the things that Tony does at UPW with the Dickens method. I'm sure you've been. Is he has this kind of guided meditation where he talks about the greatest pain, and he magnifies it. He puts it in the past, the present, and the future, and the greatest pleasure that could be in your life. And it's like a slingshot. You just go from one to the other. And I've done that a few times now. I've ruined a few sweatshirts carrying them off during that experience. It's really intense. Kids leave the room and go and do their own thing. But yeah, it's like one of these things, man. You can hack yourself. If you know, like, we're not that complicated at the end of the day. If you know what buttons to push, you can push those buttons. And leadership starts with leading yourself. If you can't lead yourself, how can you be a leader for anybody else?
100%.
If you can't summon the will in the moment to make the change that you need to make, how can you be an example or inspire anybody else? We're not, some great, we weren't born like as great men. Like, we have to develop that every day. We can't take it for granted every day, right? Our word and our bonds and our integrity and our agreements, all these things need to be consistent. But as you do that, you build the foundations of a wonderful life. Which you can build anything you want, anything you desire, anything that inspires you. And it's a beautiful thing. And we're all here to contribute something amazing. And the domino ripple effects go on into eternity. And that's where legacy comes in.
Right.
So I want to invite you to consider, if you're listening this, if you're watching this, just pick one thing to start. What's one thing that you want to change? One habit that you can get 1% better at every single day. And pretty soon you're going to start to see the life changing, and it's going to happen faster and faster and compound, because it starts as snowflakes, a couple of snowflakes, then a snowball forms. And now pretty soon you got it rolling down the hill and it's picking up steam, and now you got an avalanche. And it really does happen that way, guys. But if you're not willing to commit to something unseen, then it will never be created. Everything in life starts as an idea. Look around your city or town, wherever you live in. Everything that you see started out of somebody's idea, and they worked towards it until it became reality. You can literally create reality with ideas, but that's how they start. And then execution's the whole piece after that.
Love it. And what's so powerful is everything in existence, everything that we experience, literally everything started from an idea. There's nothing that didn't. And so that's why that's so powerful. And a lot of people get discouraged and they look at whether it's you or me or other people out there and they're like, well, you guys, it's easy for you guys to say this kind of stuff because you guys are already doing it, right? Like you guys have created this or you've done this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but we've been doing it consistently, practicing exactly what we're talking about for a period of time. And so this is the result of that. This is the practice what you preach concept.
And we also realize how limited we are. We need to enroll other people into
100% because there's no scarcity. Like I would love.
We need help, guys. Come on. Yeah. Be you if this is your calling, please.
People ask sometimes, you start having the conversations of marketing and some of the more business stuff. Sure. And they're like, well, who's your competition? Who's this? Let's get. And I'm like, honestly, man, like I get what we need to do here for the sake of this strategy that we're doing, but I don't have any competition because I really value, everyone. Like I am my own person and my own brand and my own movement in life. And there are a ton of people that may have similar paths that are beautiful and they're doing their thing. And I want those people to succeed. And the more they succeed, the more I succeed.
Yes.
So there is no competition. There may be commonality. There may be similarity, right? But let's figure out how we can bring more people into the path of doing what you truly love in life, doing what you're actually passionate about. And that may change, and that's cool. Like it doesn't have to be this like one life purpose and you do that forever. Like, but practicing things that matter to you, that are creating a positive impact into your life and the life of your family, others. It's inspiring people, it's motivating people, it's lifting up, right? Like, and the more people that I can help encourage in some capacity to start going down that path, man, I'm a happy camper. I'm a happy camper. And I think that people get discouraged sometimes because they see all these people doing something and practicing something and they think that it's saturated. They think that they can't then do that thing. Like, and it's like, no, like if that's important to you and you like whatever that is, go do it. Go explore it. Like go flirt with it and have fun. Like dive off the deep end into it and fail miserably. And then learn. Make some small shifts and come back and do it again and again and again. Right?
A little bit better every time.
Yeah. Make those small tweaks and those small changes. And that is how you get to that spot where you and I are on this podcast right now. Yes, or sir. The other person's out there running their successful business or traveling the world with their family or whatever it may be. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different desire. But I think at the end of the day, we all have one desire that we all share across the board, and that's to have freedom. In some capacity, at some level, we all desire freedom. And the only way I believe that you can actually create freedom in your life is to do the things that you're actually happy about, that make you happy, that fulfill you. Because if you're not doing those things and you're doing stuff for other people, and this isn't about like the giving conversation. This means like you're doing things that you don't like for other people, work stuff, whatever it may be. You don't have freedom. You may have moments of freedom, like visceral freedom that no one can take from you to pursue your gifts, your happiness, your passions. That's the kind of freedom I think we all truly, truly desire. And it's available, but like you got to step outside the box. You got to take some risks. You got to do some of these things we're talking about. And once you start, then that snowball gets built. And then that avalanche comes pouring through.
I love it. And a couple key pieces. I love exactly what you said. And I'm going to just add a few pieces from the scarcity to abundance perspective, because I believe that scarcity is one of the greatest ills in the world today, right? It's like it causes wars and rapes and murders and all kinds of theft and all kinds of problems. So one thing to consider is that nobody can do it exactly like you, because nobody is you. And people will want to work with you versus somebody else based on their own values, desires, needs, whatever. So multiple types of people can serve the same marketplace with the same service and products, and people pick their flavor, right? And I don't think the other thing that people don't understand is how big freaking markets are. Like the likelihood that if somebody wants something that a million other people might look at, it's really just a function of how well are these messages being communicated, and through what mediums and with what type of access. It's not a function of demand. Demand is there, right? People want, need, and desire things. That drives all the economy. Maybe millions upon millions of people who have just never heard of what you have to offer are out there just waiting to be tapped into. So never think that because Brandon or Brad or whoever is doing whatever, that there aren't, a bajillion other people. And that goes for big companies as well, like Apple, Google, Microsoft. Like there's always another piece that they're never going to touch that you can bring and just totally do your thing. That's going to be your deal. And finally, I want to just touch on the freedom versus I'm starting to take notes. I'm getting better at this.
I love it.
The freedom versus responsibility piece. Right. So did you know, I don't know if you knew this, but Stu McLaren and his charity, they're building a statue of responsibility on the West Coast.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's cool.
So initially, at least I don't want to mangle the story. So if Stu is listening, please, tell it better. But initially, when there was a Statue of Liberty built, which represents freedom on the East Coast on Ellis Island, where I'm from, not Ellis Island, Long Island, but
sure,
pretty cool. Originally there was a plan to build a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast.
Wow.
Or some other place, right? They were going to say, okay, we have freedom, but we need responsibility, because ultimately they're two sides of the same coin. Like all things in life, they're a paradoxical dichotomy. And as you go through your entrepreneurial journey, you can have freedom. You can just leave your job and go live and be homeless, right? But responsibility, getting a job, building the resources, gaining the skills, the mental capital, the relational capital, the actual capital to build a business will allow you to have a greater degree of freedom, right? Until you're financially free, you don't have the ability to create whatever you want in this world and be the fountain through which the flow comes, right? And then you can stop worrying about competition. You can stop worrying about all these different things, because you can literally create more on demand. Like all I have to do is turn the faucet on now, and there's more deals coming. I have more deals coming than I can even shake a stick at. I've had $2 million deals land on my desk last week, and then $100 million deal in the works, and this and that and the other thing. It's like there's plenty of money, guys.
Sure.
It's moving around the world at all times. But where people get locked up is they think, responsibility is a bad thing. Like I'm trying to shirk away from responsibility. Responsibility allows you the capacity for more freedom. And the freest people I knew in the world spent time building the responsibility, contributing, growing an asset or a brand or a company, or serving somebody at a high level somewhere so that they could have that freedom that they now enjoy. And that's really the kind of line to walk. And I'm not saying that one end of the spectrum, complete and utter freedom and to do whatever you want, is ludicrous. It's anarchy, right? There has to be a guideline. There has to be some balance, right? All things in life. Sure. How you rationalize those paradoxical dichotomies in life is balance. And that takes wisdom, that takes experience, that takes criteria, as you said earlier, which is a great word. I think that's a really key, important point. So to get the freedom you desire, you may have to tread the path of responsibility, but not forever. And you can go back and forth.
It's beautiful, man. And it is a dance. It's a beautiful dance of rhythm, of harmony, back and forth, because, there's personal responsibility, there's social responsibility. And that freedom responsibility piece, just to continue on that, is very, very powerful, because I started in my own life, my own experience, the more personal responsibility I started to exercise and execute in my personal life. And these could be small things, paying my utility bills online. That was a huge thing for me. You're like in the beginning of being an entrepreneur and all this stuff was like, I just procrastinated on the small $30 water bill. I'd handle the really big stuff, but then the $30 water bill would be late. I'd get my water shut off. Like, what in the world? So like personal responsibility, you find the little gaps in your life, right? And start at your home, start in your castle, your kingdom, and start to create personal responsibility in your space. Wake up and make your bed. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing that you grabbed that one, which that one's The Way of the Seal. I've got
Extreme
right there.
Ownership is the book I'm holding. If you listen to the audio, it's about taking extreme ownership ownership over every situation in your life. How you do anything is how you do everything.
And let's talk, like, it starts when you wake up in the morning. Make your bed. Like, make your bed. You want to start creating some responsibility, wake up in the morning and make your bed, right? And like, just that small thing, it starts to put you in a place of a little bit of discipline, a little bit of responsibility. And obviously we're talking the most small pieces, right?
That's where it starts.
But that's where it starts. And if we skip over the really, really small things, when I was skipping over not paying my attention to my utility bill, it had nothing to do with not having the $30. It was just, I was ignoring it. But that ignorance carried into other bigger areas of my life because it was a habit. I started creating a habit. And Tom Bilyeu talks about this, right? It's a lot right now too. He's doing a ketogenic diet and was going and showing on his, I think on his Instagram stories, doing the blood testing to see if he was in ketosis and all of that, and kind of showing publicly his journey, very transparent. But then what he's talking, because he was fasting and doing some other things, and he was talking about, like, you want to build some discipline. You know, you're 20 hours into a fast and you're really, really hungry, right? And you're doing this extreme, like, transformation in your diet. Go smell your wife's homemade soup that she just cooked. Go like hover above that for a minute and just inhale it, knowing you can't have any. Like, that's building discipline, you know, and that's like staying in that place of personal responsibility for your actions, your commitments, the things you said you're going to do. And so there's different levels of this stuff, but like, it starts with the small things. And if you can build that personal responsibility and you can create some social responsibility around that, you know, whether it's, if you're a business owner, you know, put some type of thing in there where your business does some contributions or volunteer work or something that is then taking it to the next level. It doesn't have to be big. You know, you don't have to donate huge profits or different things and all this stuff. Like, start small and start creating some responsibility around your personal life, your professional life. Start creating freedom. Start doing the things you enjoy that make you, you know, excited and happy. Exercise your gift, because you are the gift in life. I think a lot of people get confused and they hear coaches and teachers and gurus and whatever label you want to put in there talk about, you know, find your gift and give it away. And it's like that. I get it. Like, that's cool. But what if we stop for a minute and pause and take a breath and realize that we are the gift? Like, you are the gift. It's not some thing inside of you that you have to go on a journey to discover. Like, sure, there may be talents and there may be things that you can bring out and exercise. But what if simply you being here is the gift? And by you showing up as that best version of yourself, the happiest version of yourself, doing the things that really, really fulfill you, and you bring that to the world, what if that's actually how we change the world? Like, what if that's actually how we make the world a better place? Is by making ourselves better.
So many threads. Beautiful. We're going to wrap this up. A couple things we're going to talk about next time is the parable of the talents, which is a really important, I think, biblical verse that carries a lot of corollaries, right? To whom, basically the story is, to whom, if you're given something and you do well with it, you're given more, right? And the talents can go both ways.
Beautiful.
You're given talents in life, and if you choose to squander them, no more is given to you. But if you use them to their highest ability, they come back and they grow, and more is given. Another piece is Yannick Silver of Evolved Enterprise. There's actual hard data in that book about how companies that make giving a percentage of their ethos and mission, people want to do business with companies that have a mission, a purpose, more than just to make money.
Sure.
And I think the right amount is 10% personally. For everything do it, make more marbles. Like, for example, we just launched a mentorship program, so we're doing 10 spots there. And then the 11th spot, actually, this is inspired by a protege of mine, Savannah, who's on my team, and she's wonderful. They get the spot for free. Like, I want to help a young entrepreneur that can't afford to pay us what we charge. Man. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then finally, like, the data for abundance versus scarcity, right? Showing people more evidence that operating based on these principles is actually better for you too, right? Because if we make like Michael Quinn always says, one of my business partners, if we make our world better, the whole world gets better. I think Jesse Elder taught him that. Like, it's like, if you focus on making your world better, the whole world gets better.
100%.
So it's like this kind of cool spiritual selfishness that is also a paradoxical dichotomy, but it really does help. Like the honeybees, man, they go out to get honey and make pollen and all this good stuff. That's all they need to care about. They're also changing the world. They're pollinating all the flowers. So there's a lot of beautiful stuff here. We do have to wrap this up, but we're going to do round 2. Are you down for round 2, my friend?
Always. I'd love to. Be an absolute honor, man.
That would be dope. I got to jump on another call, guys.
Cool.
Welcome to Make More Marbles podcast. We're going to be doing more of these with wonderful people such as Brandon. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
Facebook, man, is the easiest. I don't even know what my Facebook thing is. Brandon James Duncan. Rarebreed.life is the website. But yeah, reach out, questions, all that good stuff. I'm always available. Love connecting with new people. And
then finally, because you're on the Make More Marbles podcast, and we're always looking to connect people, resources, opportunities, grow seeds, make crops. Anyway, what is the thing that you need personally to get your mission to the next level right now? What is the connection, the resource, the opportunity, the person, the system that we can connect you to, the community can connect you to help grow your mission to the next level?
Wow. You put me on the spot. That's a great question. The first thing that comes to my mind isn't so much something that would be like a tangible thing. Really, it's actually just you continuing to do what you're doing, you continuing to pursue this path and to bring other people onto your podcast and onto your platform to share what they have actually allows me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish in life.
Right on, brother. I appreciate
like it's as simple as that. Like just keep pushing forward and doing what you're doing. And that adds more value to me than anything I could say, go do this. Like I don't need anything.
Got it. Love it. Is there anything you want or desire?
Oh yeah.
Well, then what's that?
I want to climb Mount Everest. So if you can help me facilitate that.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we'll doodle on that, and somebody else might be listening and be like, "Oh, I got a guy for that."
Yeah, I need a guy. But thank you too, Brad. Like I appreciate the opportunity today, man. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and the listening audience, whomever you may be out there. Thank you. Hope you guys have an amazing day.
All the best, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.